Brigitte Macron, the current First Lady of France, was born a man.
I have a lot of evidence that Brigitte Macron was born a man. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, and we have come to dispute. You claim that Brigitte Macron's communion photos of when she was a little girl was recolorized, and that is simply not true. Aha!
Who is Brigitte Macron and why is there so much controversy surrounding her? As we all know, she's married to Emmanuel Macron, making her the First Lady of France. They met in high school where she used to be his drama teacher, which is really weird. But the closer you look into their relationship, the weirder it gets. In case you didn't know, Candace Owens is doing this entire investigation about Brigitte Macron. I can't recommend it enough for you guys. It is really thorough. It's very interesting. She brings up all the facts. So if you guys are interested in this story, please watch her series. And I'm just gonna do like a summary of it for you guys. Brigitte Macron was born on April 13th, 1953, and there's not a lot we know about her life. She at some point was married to Andre Auziere, and the two of them had 3 kids together. And at some point, she began working in this very fancy school where she was a drama teacher, and this is where she meets Emmanuel Macron. Now, according to them, she was 36 and he was 17, and she used to be this very hot drama teacher. She apparently used to look like a Victoria's Secret model, drop dead gorgeous, everybody wanted her, and this guy Emmanuel Macron was the only one who could get her attention. So this grown-ass woman with a husband and 3 kids starts having feelings for this boy Emmanuel Macron, and as we know, the rest is history. And like I said before, there's very little we know about Brigitte Macron. We only know what she told us, and what she told us, honey, was a bunch of lies. Lie number 1, their age gap. So we were told that when they met, Brigitte was 36 and Emmanuel was 17. Well, that turned out to be a lie, because apparently Brigitte was 39 years old and Emmanuel was 14. Now, dating one of your students is creepy AF, but they thought like, oh, if he was 17 and she was 36, it would make it less creepy. No, it's still creepy AF. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you, a married woman with 3 kids, dating one of your students? Like, what is wrong with you? She was 39. 39. Let that sink in. And he was 14. And what I find to be absolutely crazy is the fact that their union was celebrated. When he became the president of France, everybody was talking about how they were this power couple, their love story. It was so unique. It was so amazing. Emmanuel Macron, he was such a boy genius, right? That he was able to charm his high school teacher. That is really weird. Like, what do you mean they are a power couple and they have a unique love story? But that's not where the lies and inconsistencies end. Oh no. Because then you realize that we know nothing about Brigitte Macron, like absolutely nothing. There are no records of her early life, no childhood pictures, no pictures from her, high school days. There are no pictures of her with her husband, of her being pregnant, of her with her young kids, like absolutely nothing. Like, you would literally think this woman was born in Stone Ages, because there is no traces of her earlier life, no records of it at all. You can only find pictures of her from when she began working in that fancy school where she met Emmanuel Macron. And looking at those pictures, she does not look like a Victoria's Secret model to me. She doesn't look like she's a drop-dead hottie that everybody wanted. No offense, Brigitte, but you were never that girl, okay? So there are no traces of Brigitte Macron's earlier life. Well, what about her ex-husband, Andre Auziere? After all, they were married for 32 years. They have 3 kids together. So surely he would have a lot of pictures of her, right? Again, these two were not married during Stone Ages. Obviously, like, there were cameras, so they spent 32 years together. There must be like a lot of evidence of their life together, like wedding pictures, pictures of Brigitte when she was pregnant, of them traveling, just living their lives, right? Well, turns out there are also no records of this Andre Auziere. All we know is what we were told. He used to work in finance, he was married to Brigitte for 32 years, they had 3 kids together, and he passed away in 2019. And it's quite interesting that Brigitte didn't come to his funeral. After all, that's her husband of 32 years, they have 3 kids together, but no, she couldn't be bothered. And later, her daughter was talking about how she attended his funeral, it was very private. And here's the thing, she got the dates wrong. In her interview, she said that her father was buried on 24th of December, but he was actually cremated on 29th. There were like a lot of inconsistencies, and it's kind of interesting that for his obituary, they used a picture of him where he's literally wearing trunks in his his 68 years of life, surely there must be a better, more suitable picture. Now keep in mind, we know nothing about this man's life. We don't know what led to his death. His partner at the time said that she found tickets to Africa in one of his jackets, which is very interesting. And then there was this journalist who said that he spent his last days in a psychiatric ward guarded by Alexander Benalla, who is apparently somebody who's very close to Emmanuel Macron. So this story keeps getting crazier and crazier. Like, first of all, there are no photos of his life. His ex-wife doesn't show up to his funeral. His daughter gets the dates wrong. And then we're told that he was either going to Africa or he spent his last days in the psychiatric ward. This is very suspicious. There are so many inconsistencies. At least to me, it shows that they have something to hide. I know I mentioned that there are no or very little photos of them, but now let's look at the photos that we do have. First, there's this family photo. Please take a very good look. Now, we are told that the little girl in this photo is Brigitte Macron. Now, take a look at this boy at the far left. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? This boy is Jean-Michel Trogneux. And doesn't he look like Brigitte Macron? There is something very interesting about Jean-Michel Trogneux. For starters, he's the complete opposite of his quote-unquote sister. Okay, let me tell you what I mean by that. Remember how there are no records of Brigitte's earlier life? Well, when it comes to Jean-Michel Trogneux, there are a lot of records of his early life, but then he just disappears. So he was born on February 11th, 1945. He attended Jussieu Academy, and there are class photos that can prove this. So after graduating from high school, he went on to live in Algeria, which apparently was very unusual because at that time they just got their independence from France, so not a lot of French people were going to Algeria at this time. Quite interesting. In 1963, he went to ESTP school, and there are photos that can prove this. In 1980, he marries a woman named Veronique Drew, and there is only paper evidence of this. In 1982, Jean-Jacques is born. Now take a good look at Jean-Michel Trogneux's son. Doesn't he just remind you of somebody? Now look at this side-by-side picture of him and Emmanuel Macron. Do you see the resemblance? Interesting, right? Now in 1987, Jean-Michel Trogneux divorces his wife Veronique. And it's quite interesting that from 1963, there is no photo evidence of Jean-Michel Trogneux. Again, during this time, cameras were invented, so after 1963, there is only paper evidence of this guy. We know he was married, we know he fathered a son, we know he got divorced, and after that, he just disappears altogether. And it's quite interesting that he disappears around the same time Brigitte Macron starts working in that fancy school where she meets Emmanuel Macron. Like, literally, there are no more traces of this man. Did he just cease to exist? Was he abducted by aliens? What happened to him? Now let's go back to photos of Brigitte Macron because we are not done yet. They gave us this photo claiming that it was taken from Brigitte Macron's communion. Candace Owens brought up the fact that the girl in this photo looks a lot like Brigitte Macron's daughter, and once you look at the side-by-side, you just can't unsee it. So this photo was obviously altered to make it look like it was taken from way back when, but once you look at it, you definitely can see that it's her daughter. So if they have nothing to hide, why are they faking it? Where are all the real unaltered photos of Brigitte Macron's early life? Okay, now let's look at this wedding photo. This photo was allegedly taken from Brigitte Macron's first wedding. And to me personally, this woman doesn't really look like Brigitte Macron, especially if you compare it to one of her pictures from her teaching days. These two women look nothing alike to me, unless Brigitte Macron had a major glow down. And after this wedding photo, she just ceases to exist until she starts working in that fancy school. So they want to tell us that there are only 3 photos of this woman's early life: her family photo, communion photo, and a wedding photo. So in a family photo, she looks a lot like Jean-Michel Trogneux. The girl in the communion photo looks a lot like her daughter, and a woman in a wedding photo looks nothing like her. And the thing is, this isn't just a nobody, this is the First Lady of France. Apparently her family was very well known in Amiens, so there would have to be some traces, some records of her early life, unless somebody deliberately erased her whole past. And the fact that they were going after French journalists who were trying to investigate this makes it look even more suspicious. Because if you have nothing to hide, then why are you so pressed? So there is a theory that the little girl in the picture is indeed Brigitte Trogneux, and Jean-Michel Trogneux just took over his sister's identity. And if that's the case, then where's the real Brigitte Trogneux? Candace Owens also brought up the fact that there are a lot of missing pieces from Emmanuel Macron's past. He was apparently very close with his grandma, and his grandma introduced him to books written by PDF files. Emmanuel was so into these books that one of them was even in the background of his presidential portrait. Imagine your own grandmother introducing you to books written by PDF files. Like, how freaking disturbing is that? Also, it looks like he wasn't very close with his parents. In his own autobiography, he only dedicated 1 page to his parents, 5 pages to his grandmother, and like one-liners to his siblings. But he seems to be very close with Brigitte's family. He mentioned all of them in his book, even her grandkids. And during his inauguration, his own family was nowhere to be seen, but her whole family was there. And her daughter used to go to the same school as Emmanuel. I think they were even classmates. And imagine your classmate dating and then marrying your mother. That is beyond disturbing. And the fact that she is so supportive of their marriage, I just find it to be very weird. Brigitte Macron's past is just a giant black hole. When Candace Owens first began talking about it back when she was working for the Daily Wire, I was very confused and skeptical, but the more we look into this, the more I'm starting to believe her. Candace Owens did a fantastic job investigating Brigitte's past. You can watch her series Becoming Brigitte, and it's so detailed, it's very thorough. She brings up all the facts. There are so many layers, twists, and turns to this story. You guys should definitely check it out. I hope that by the end of this series, we will get to find out who real Brigitte Macron is, because I am dying to know. This is it for today. Let me know what you guys think. I'm very curious to know your thoughts, your theories about this. Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.